Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ocean Decoded Live. On the episode today, we are going to be talking about a resurgence of humpbacks off the coast of Brazil, and we're also got some great camera footage of whale sharks feeding well below the ocean surface, and that's something that we haven't seen before. And we kind of came up, or scientists have come up with a new theory of how much they actually feed at the surface compared to down below. We're going to talk about all of that on today's episode of Ocean Decoded Live. If you haven't seen this, is the third episode we've done. Monday to Thursday, we're going to be doing Ocean Decoded Live. We're going to be looking at the most recent, if possible, studies and ocean news that you have available to you. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to actually get into this. So we are going to start right away. All right, let's get into our first. Well, first, if you don't know who I am, my name is Andrew Lewin. I am the Oceans Manager over at Pisces Oceans, which is a Canadian consulting firm that deals with strategy, management, and story of all of your ocean projects. So if you are interested in finding ocean projects, you can go up to piscesoceans.ca. If you have an ocean project, you're looking for some help, project management, strategy, communications, just let us know. We'd be more than happy to help you out as soon as possible. But today we're going to be focusing in on humpback whales. I'm also the host of How to Protect the Ocean, a podcast that's found on your favorite podcast app. We actually just celebrated today the 2000th episode. That's pretty cool. 2,000 episodes. That's a pretty big mile marker or milestone in the podcasting world. I've been doing this for 11 years, over 3 million downloads, and now I've focused my attention not only just on podcasting, but just content creation in general, looking at all of this wonderful stuff that we can do on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, all those kind of things. So subscribe if you want to know more about the ocean here on YouTube. And as well as you can let me know in the comments. If you're here, you want to say hello, you want to do whatever you'd like to say. If you have questions or comments on these articles, please feel free to do so. So let's get into the first story. So humpback whales off the coast of Brazil. Let me just go over to our story here from The Guardian. Humpbacks return to Rio. The whales are back from the brink of extinction, but will tourism help or hinder? That's the question that we're going to be asking. First, I want to go through what has been going on with humpbacks. We've seen a lot of populations of humpbacks rebound quite well after the centuries of whaling, right? For their blubber, for energy. That was before fossil fuels. That's what we saw in that. I'm just not sure what's going on with the background here, but let's see if that will switch off if we do, because that wasn't supposed to be there. So let's just go to the screen share. And for some reason, let's see if I can, sorry, I'm just going to switch something up here because I don't like this kind of stuff that goes on here. Okay, looks like we won't be able to do that right now. I'll have to figure out how to do that after. For some reason, the background doesn't match what we're supposed to be doing an image. Let me just see if I can quickly help with that, but I don't think I'll be able to do it right now. Let's just see. Ocean Decoded. Let's try this one. Okay. Can we push this to the back? Sorry about this. This is stuff I'm learning as I go along. I don't know if I can push this actually to the back. Okay. Let's just take that off. Okay, we'll just have to deal with it. I apologize. I'll change that for tomorrow's episode. But anyway, we're talking about humpback whales because humpbacks are an important part of the environment. Marine mammals. They are absolutely important. We've seen a decline during the centuries of whaling when they were used for oil. We also saw that they're important for just regular ecosystem functions. You're probably wondering, like, what are these marine mammals? What do they do for the ecosystems? Well, actually, when they pass away, when they die, they usually float to the bottom of the ocean. And all these little organisms and sharks and other types of marine species will feed off of their remains. And that will help the ecosystem kind of just kind of stay within its own sort of circulation and be healthy. Now, with whales and their poop, there's a really famous scientist that studies blue whales and their poop, and she says that when the poop, it's Dr. Ashley DeVos, when she says that their poop goes down to the bottom of the ocean, it helps feed a lot of microorganisms and bacteria and stuff, and it allows for those ocean processes to continue to just work, and it continues to make the ocean really, really healthy. So that's always nice to see, when we have marine mammals like that. But obviously they're iconic species. We want to see more of these species around. And the humpback whales, they returned off the coast of Brazil, which is great. Growing numbers after being pushed back from nearly to extinction by commercial whaling. So the population in this group off the coast of Brazil fell below 1,000 individuals by the late 1980s. So not even that long ago. That's what, 40 years ago that it fell. I was like 2 years old at that point. I was born in 78. I was 2 years old when these animals were going down to 1,000 individuals in a population. And now they've rebounded back to somewhere between 30 to 35,000, depending on who you talk to. There's a little controversy in the estimates, but it's always an estimate. You never know how many individuals are there to today. So that's amazing, right? So like this is this year, where one of the whales has repeatedly sighted inside Guanabara Bay itself, part of at least 18 sightings that researchers say that are unprecedented and may signal whales reclaiming habitat they used centuries ago. So now imagine this. I want you to think about this. We had whales galore in the ocean, all over the ocean, back a few centuries ago. These whales were using habitats, they were feeding, they didn't really have a lot of predators at the time until humans really started to be able to use them for whaling and use their blubber as oil to, light candles and so forth, and for some types of fuel, different types of fuel. So now we have these whales being used for fuel. Their populations go down because as the technology increases, humans are able to kill them faster. They're able to go further. They're able to go to the depths or go to the middle of the ocean and be able to grab these whales. And so we started to see this decrease in whale populations, right? So late 1980s, fewer than 1,000 humpbacks in the Brazilian population. Now nearly 30,000. This is by the same scientists, Thiago Ferrari. He and Amigos do Drumbarte. I'm not sure if that's the name of the other co-author, but Ferrari also did the estimates of 30,000. As a scientist, as a conservationist, that's to be able to live through. Seeing, like, obviously not the lower than 1,000 individuals, you would almost think, well, this population is very close to going extinct, right? It's like the North Atlantic right whale population on the east coast of the U.S. and Canada. But to see it grow to a population of 30,000 is phenomenal. That's just wonderful to be able to be a part of that. I think is what we like to see. Now the migration that they usually runs in from June to November. So they run from South Georgia and Sandwich Islands, where they have the feeding grounds, to the Albrojos Bank breeding grounds off of northeast Brazil. So sorry, I can't read the names here sometimes. But the global commercial whaling ban took effect in 1986. So here's the thing: we have all these whales. The whales go down to under 1,000 individuals. In 1986, they say, you know what? That's enough. We don't want to lose these whales. We're going to put a ban on whaling, and all of a sudden, we start to see it go up. Right, whaling in that area, that Guanabara Bay, documented as early as 1780. So and it doesn't mean that that's when they started. It could be earlier that they started. So being able to go after these whales year after year after year from the 1700s all the way to now, or maybe even earlier, all the way to now, or to 1986. That's a lot of pressure on a population, on a whale that takes a long time to grow to sexual maturity and have its own calves and its own babies to be able to continue on with the population. You keep taking the females, you keep taking the males, there's nobody to reproduce, especially at their size. Now, the new development, we see 18 sightings this year inside the bay, the Guanabara Bay, which is insane, right? One juvenile whale has been living in the bay since mid-June and is tracked by marine biologist Liliane Lodi. She's from the IHAS Rio research project. And the behaviors normally associated with breeding grounds, not migration routes, now being observed near Rio. So newborn calves, male competitive displays, and whale song recordings are also happening. So this is kind of cool. We're starting to see this rebuild. We're starting to see that they're inhabiting their old habitats. That means that they are there. That means those habitats are intact. That means they're pretty healthy for those animals to be there and to use them. We're seeing juveniles playing around. We're seeing, males do these competitive displays, for breeding and for competing for the right females or for the best females. And then, of course, you have whale song recordings all the time. So that's really cool. A really cool story to see that there's a rebound, especially these days with everything going on with climate change and marine pollution and plastic pollution and overfishing. To see whales come back after policies put in place to say, hey, you know what, we're not gonna kill these whales anymore. We're not gonna hunt them. We're going to continue to enjoy seeing them, and we want to see them rebound. And that's what we've seen. It's amazing. It is amazing what can happen when the policies are abided and they're put in place and people actually follow these policies. Absolutely amazing. Now, in comes a little bit of a challenge, I guess. So there is this tourism that is happening. So there is a tourism operator running tours. It's co-founded by skipper Theo Andrade. The tours pair scientists with tourists, and so Rocksail employs an environmental sciences student, Mariana Bueno, to log every sighting and pass data on to the Amigos de Gibraltar. So I guess it's the institution or the research project. Now, this research project has certified roughly 20 tour agencies in Rio for cetacean watching and looking at best practices. So that means they are making sure that they are doing the best practices they can, including 100-meter minimum distance and 30-meter cap near any individual whale. When we have in the 1980s, when we didn't have a lot of these humpback whales coming into the bays and coming close to the coastlines where people want to see them, we started to see that increase. People wanted to watch. Everybody loves whale watching, right? If you can handle being on a boat, you don't mind the waves, and you don't mind being patient and finding whales. And sometimes you may want to go out more than once because the whale doesn't breach like it is in this picture. You want to, you want to be out there. You want to be around, and there's always some operator or some operators that want to push the limits and push the boundaries and go as close as possible to this marine mammal. And it's not always a great thing. It's something that will cause a lot of problems if they're close. The ocean noise from the boats can cause problems in the communication of these whales to each other within the pods. So imagine juveniles trying to talk to their parents, trying to talk to the mothers. Imagine the males trying to talk to the females. That can interrupt a lot of these social behaviors that we see. The pods for marine mammals and even humpback whales are very intricate. They're very complex, and these sounds, they have their own dialects and their own sounds, so they definitely communicate to each other. When you have a tourist industry that is there to make sure make sure that you want to see these whales and enjoy these whales, you got to make sure safety comes first for the whales as well as for the passengers on the boat. So it's great to see that we have this tourism agency. It's great to see that Amigos de Gibraltar is doing like certification. So they look like they certified 20 of these tour agencies, and then looking at cetacean best practices of at least 100-meter distance. Now, I should mention that as a comparison, in the Northwest, in Canada, off the coast of British Columbia, we have orcas. We have lots of orcas, and there is a minimum distance of 200 meters from the orcas that a whale watching ship has to stay, or any ship has to stay. They have to stay a minimum of 200 meters. If the whales come close, you have to cut your engines off, because sometimes they'll come closer because they want to check you out, they want to see, or you're just in the path of their migration route of where they want to go. Or where they want to go that day in terms of the orcas. So there are definitely some major restrictions around these whales and around watching. And I like the 30-meter cap 30-minute cap near any individual whale. So you can only be around them for 30 minutes. Now, off the coast of, I think it's Mexico in, where is it? Cabo St. Lucas, I think. Where you can go out and see the gray whales. They're very used to humans. They're very interactive with the humans, and they will come up to the boat themselves. But I think the boats have to shut off their engines as they come close, so they don't
nick them with the propellers or hurt them in any kind of way. Or again, the noise can be very disturbing. Imagine if you've ever, anybody who's ever been in the water when there's a boat in the water, if you're underwater, you, especially as a scuba diver, you really don't know where noise is coming from. It almost like all around you, and the direction of where it's coming from is really it's hard to figure. Excuse me, it's hard to figure that out. So when you have to look around and you're trying to figure out where it's all coming, and it's really loud, and you have trouble connecting with your pod mate or anything like that, it becomes a real hassle, and it's a very big disturbance in an ocean that can be dangerous, in an ocean that you want to make sure mothers want to be close to their calves, and males want to protect their females, and so forth. So it's a thing that we have to be careful. So having these minimum requirements are really great. Now, some of the things that's causing a little bit of a worry is there are more boats clustering in the migration corridor near the Caragas Islands that increases risk of harm, even when individual operators follow the rules. So if you're just there, if there's more boats in there, it's a tighter situation. There are more boats within that migration routes. Mistakes can happen. It increases the risk of a whale getting hurt, or a boat getting damaged, or people getting hurt. And so there's got to be some sort of regulations around how many boats can be in an area at a time, and having permits of when they can be out there and how they can be out there. Now, Lori says, one responsible operator doesn't protect the whales if others aren't following the same standards. And that's true. Like, obviously you need everybody to participate. Enforcement needs to happen, and also just community management, like within the tourism industry. If you're a whale watching boat and you see somebody not abiding by the law and not abiding by these minimum requirements, you should speak up. A lot of these local management arrangements, whether it's a marine protected area, whether it's a tourism industry, a lot of them will be very adamant about following the rules to make sure that they can continue to do these whale watchings, because it's big money for them. And I wouldn't want that taken away because somebody's being silly and not following the rules. So Brazil also bans swimming with whales, which is kind of cool. But Lottie argues that the broader legal framework needs to be updated, and better enforcement needs to happen. And then the other named threats that are mentioned is fishing gear entanglement, large ship traffic, and then a chemical and noise pollution. So these are kind of like the major parts of what we see in the ocean. Any type of human-led activity can cause harm, even with tourism. And so making sure regulations are in place to reduce those harms, even if it has to be a marine protected area where maybe sometimes ecotourism or tourism agencies can go in, but not like fishermen or anything like that, to decrease areas where whales tend to congregate. So you can have the ecotourism because they're not going to be extractive. Whereas if you have fish or fishers in the area and they use line and they use rope or they use gill nets that can get caught on these whales, you don't want them to get harmed. So that's something that you have to be careful of. Okay, let's move on to our next story. And this is kind of a cool one. I got a video for you coming up, but this one's all about whale sharks and watching how these attached cameras on these whale sharks captured krill feedings that we've never witnessed before. Now, I want to show you something different. Let's see if this comes up. I want to show you something different here. And this reminds me of a cartoon. I had this done through AI, but this reminds me of a cartoon that I saw when I was like a comic strip. When I was a kid, it was two people. They were on a deserted island and they were looking out into the ocean. And they were like, there's nothing here. There's nothing here for us to eat. There's nothing here for us to play with or swim in. They're just looking out on the surface of the ocean. And what they didn't realize is that below the surface of the ocean, there's so much happening. And with marine biologists and scientists and conservationists, a lot of the times we can witness what happens at the surface, but a lot of the times we don't witness what happens down below because we can't be there. It's difficult to follow a whale shark or any other type of shark or manta ray or sea turtle or any kind of fish or marine mammal when they go down to the depths of the ocean. Now, we have witnessed, humpback whales and other whales go down to the depths of the ocean because we've had cameras down there, whether it be on an oil rig or whether it be on a camera that's mounted to some sort of scientific instrument that is gathering data, or we see like an ROV and a whale's coming down to check it out. We have seen those in the submarines. We have seen those that happen, but we can't follow them wherever they go, right? And now we have these cameras that we can actually be underwater with them without disturbing them that much. Imagine a scuba diver trying to follow a shark or trying to follow an animal,
to see what they're up to and to observe any kind of behaviors. That's a very difficult thing. In the case of whale sharks, right? We have, let's see if this will switch. It tends not to switch back. This button does not work very well. Let's see if I go to something else. No, I'm gonna have to do this. Switch this manually. The wonders of doing a production on the fly. Let's see if I can just switch this manually over here. Does that work? Interesting. Not, it's all messed up. this is really weird. Let's see if I could do this to get out of it. Usually there's a screen share that's supposed to show up. Let's go back to the image and let's go back to the screen share because it was up. It was up not long ago. I don't know exactly what happened to it, but it was up. I think my computer is having some difficulty here and now I'm frozen. Okay, wonderful. Wonders of going live with everything. I've closed down a lot of things, so I shouldn't have to worry about that. And now I'm frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Let's just go back to the opening. Is that gonna work? I hear it. Do you hear me? This is so weird. Let's try this. Wow. I'm frozen on here. I don't know if you're frozen on mine, but I'm definitely frozen. This is not ideal. This is definitely not ideal. See if I can go back here. Can you guys see me, hear me? I am live. That's interesting. Let's see how this works. Yeah, I am live and I'm moving around, but I'm frozen on my computer and I can't move anywhere else. Let's see if this works. All right, I'm going to end this stream and I'm going to come back in about 2 minutes to see what's happening with everything. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. Oh, look, I'm back. Or I haven't gone anywhere. Let's see if that worked. I don't know if that worked. This is so confusing. Okay, I'm going to continue on and see if this goes because my main camera is not working, but I still have another camera that works. So I apologize for that. Hopefully, in the post, I can clean that up. But let's talk a little bit about these cameras because like one of the things that I was really looking forward to showing you is the video of this. So essentially what has happened here is we have seen a new behavior of whale sharks. Now, a whale shark is the largest shark in the world's largest fish in the world. It is a shark. It is not a whale, even though it's called a whale. But these are things that have been really interesting to see. Like they've been monitored quite a bit, but we still don't know a lot about the behaviors of these animals. And so being able to witness them, being able to observe them in their own habitat is great. And most of the time we've seen them in shallow waters, and we've seen them feeding in these shallow waters or at the surface of the ocean in deep water. And so, you know, you've seen, you can go swimming with a lot of outfits that do swimming with whale sharks, which is kind of cool to see, but obviously you need some kind of restrictions along there, of course, like we just talked about with the whale sharks or with the humpback whales. But you can go swimming with them because a lot of times they come to the surface and it looks like they're feeding on plankton or small fish at the surface of the ocean. And so that's where a lot of times researchers thought that that's what they feed, primarily on the surface of the ocean. And you would think it's kind of weird during the day because you wouldn't get as much plankton or fish at the surface because that's where they're most vulnerable. But at night,
they'll come up to the surface because it's a little easier for them to get to there, and they can drop down and go up and drop down. But this study out of the University of Murdoch and the Australian Institute of Marine Science, this study looked at, so Christine Berry and Luciana Ferreira were the people who were in charge of looking after the study in Australia. So what they noticed was that they attached these small camera tags on the juvenile whale sharks at a gathering site near Ningaloo Reef in the Western Australia. So what we see the animals, so they are able to see what the animals can do below the surface. Where most parts of the observation has been like impossible to see, like I mentioned before, you can't go underwater with these things. So the tags recorded high resolution movement data plus point of view video from the front half of the shark, of each shark, and detached on so these tags. A lot of people are worried about tags. I can understand that, but a lot of ethics to go around looking at these tags and be able to protect them. And you put on a tag, you find out where they go, you can protect where their habitats are. And so having these camera tags on, if they pop off after 24 hours, they don't do long-term damage to the whale or to the whale shark. That's what I know from my own findings and talking to people who do this type of research. There's a lot of paperwork that have to go through depending on the country that you're doing this study in, and where you come from. So that's always interesting. So now these cameras come off after 24 hours. So that combining the footage with the review of more than 100 existing scientific publications, the team built the largest catalog of whale shark behaviors ever assembled, cataloging 36 different behaviors. So not just watching these animals feed, they're watching different behaviors. The biggest finding overturns a long-standing assumption. Whale sharks were thought to feed mostly at the surface, but the study shows that the study shows them feeding throughout the entire water column, down to 70 meters deep at the site where they were tagged. So that's kind of interesting. And they use everything from low effort gliding near the seafloor to active, energetic chasing of krill swarms near the surface. Most of the time was spent in low effort snacking behavior. Researchers compared to grazing the pantry before committing to a real meal. So the study, published in the Journal of Marine Biology, is described as the first comprehensive look at whale shark footage across the full water column, and the authors hope to expand the camera approach to other whale shark gathering sites worldwide. So there's not just gathering sites in Australia. There's some, I believe, in the Gulf of Mexico. There's some on the Pacific. There's some in the Atlantic. Like, they're everywhere in the tropical areas. We're finding them more and more these days. So this is kind of like a cool place to be able to, a cool study to be able to watch these animals just be able to do all this stuff. So I'm going to just play the video for you. I hope it plays, because right now my camera's still frozen, but I can see on the little camera that this is working. All right, so I have this queued up here. I didn't put the sound, although there's no sound. I'm just going to do this full. There we go. Now this is the full. So I'm going to talk. As I talk, you can watch the video behind me or beside me to be able to see how you can see the researchers at the surface of the water. They're putting on the tags, and then once the tags are on, those will go down. And there it is. It's really easy to secure. They're going to go, like, if they go down to the surface, like you can see here, they're going from the surface all the way down. You can see all the fish that follow them, and you can almost see all the different animals that they encounter on the way up. And it's a little bit cloudy. I don't know if those are plankton. You can kind of see the flashes of little fish and maybe some plankton there. But that's really cool to see them go down into the surface. Now, here they're observed during dive feeding, so they actually have their mouths and gills open. They're going crazy, enjoying that food for them. So I just think that this is like a really cool finding for an animal that we really don't know much about. In fact, I'm always surprised at how much we don't know about sharks in general, right? We just don't know. Here it is circling, doing that kind of behavior. So all these different behaviors that have never been really observed before are like distinct behaviors that we've never seen, which is a really cool thing to be a researcher, to be able to do that, to observe those things and be able to document them in a paper such as Marine Biology, the Journal of Marine Biology. Really cool thing. But we just don't know a lot about sharks, let alone whale sharks. And there's so much information that you can know. And I do a podcast. I co-host a podcast with Dr. David Ebert, known as the Lost Shark Guy, with Beyond Jaws. And we talk a lot about how there are places in the world that don't study sharks. You know, we just did an interview with somebody from Ghana, and he's the first one who really studies sharks in not only in Ghana but in Western Africa. So that's amazing, and to bring that on, like such a challenge to do, to bring it on, and having to do to create the documentation and work with government to get protections and all this stuff is pretty. Get footage like this. And have these camera footage on the backs of these animals, these incredible animals, to be able to understand them a little bit more by their behaviors, understand that they are not only feeding at the surface, they are feeding down below up to 70 meters, according to this. And to find out now that we can put them on other animals, this is just really cool research that I can't wait to see more of. And then, of course, it's such a visual thing. We can see them all the time. My video slowing down here. I think I'm starting to tax this computer that I'm using. But regardless, it's something that's really important, and I want people to know about it. I'm really happy that I'm able to show you this. I think it's cool. I'm just gonna stop the video here because it gets near the end. But I'm really happy that I get to show you this, because this is something that I feel we need to share the good news, right? The good news is important, and it's fun to be able to share that kind of good news with people. So that they can be able to see. I'm trying to change the screen again, and it refuses to change. So we'll have to work on that. Let me just see if I can change it manually here. How about this one? Does that work? Yeah, that worked. Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, so this is something. These are two stories that I love to share. Positive stories, gives you optimism for the ocean. Let me know if it gives you optimism for the ocean, because I know there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of climate anxiety, ocean anxiety, and I feel as though it's something that becomes difficult to follow ocean news when you can't do ocean news all the time. Like when you don't know if there's going to be positive news, or you think it's always going to be negative news. So to have more positive news in the atmosphere, in the internet, in the interwebs, is always a good sign. And so I want to bring that to you. It's not always going to be positive. Sometimes it's going to be negative, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the ocean, but I want you to know about it. That's why we're here on Ocean Decoded, to go live every Monday to Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, in and around. So check that out, because I think it's important for you, if you're interested in learning about the ocean. I think it's important for you to be able to tune in, be able to ask questions or anything like that. So just let me know in the comments below what you think of this style, what you think of the episode, what you think of the stories. I would love to know, love to get your feedback on all of this, because I think it's important. I think it's important that we share this type of information. And if you want, as you can see on the screen here, you can see my website, speakupforblue.com, Instagram, TikTok. I do have a How to Protect the Ocean podcast if you're looking for audio content, and of course the Beyond Jaws podcast that I co-host with Dr. David Ebert. You can check that out. And if you're interested in supporting the work that I do, because I spend a lot of time on this and supporting that work, you speakupforblue.com/Patreon to support me on Patreon. So that's speakupforblue.com/Patreon. I apologize for a little hiccup here. My screen apparently froze, but I'm glad I was able to get through it, and I'm glad you were able to get through it, and I appreciate all the time you've given me. And subscribe if you want to learn more and you don't want to miss any other episodes. Don't forget to go to my community posts. I'll be sharing a number of different questions throughout the days ahead. And yeah, that's it for today's episode. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Ocean Decoded Live this Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Andrew Lewin. I'm your host. And thank you for joining us, and happy conservation.